Hello, this is Georgia at Local Ecologist. I'm in my favorite park in New York City. It's my local park, Washington Square Park. I'm here for Black Botanist Week, and I'm botanizing while black. For the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to show some of my favorite trees in the park, and we're looking at one right now. Some of my favorite trees are the trees that are part of the Washington Square Park Eco Project's Phenology Trail. So this is a flowering dogwood, and I was pretty disappointed this year because I missed the ripening of the fruit. But I'll zoom in. Really big leaves, young leaves that will expand. This is a real favorite spot for squirrels and house sparrows to hang out. You can get a close-up of some buds. And we'll take a walk. So the park is kind of crowded and I'm not wearing my mask, so I'll have to be kind of careful. So another tree on the Phenology Trail is this Kwanzaa cherry, and there are actually two Kwanzaa cherries on the Phenology Trail. I've been meaning to figure out what's going on with this tree because earlier in the season, many of the leaves started curling and then they browned and died. And I won't be able to take any questions. I'm not that savvy to walk and answer at the same time, but I will post this video to my feed, and then if you have questions, you can ask them there. So, close-up of the leaves. One of the reasons that I love the Kwanzaa cherry is because of its incredibly showy flowers in the spring. I also really like how pronounced its lenticels are. That gas exchange mechanism on the bark. And we'll keep walking. I like to think of this area as the Red Oak Grove. We often see lots of pigeons here, lots of squirrels, but we also see red-bellied woodpeckers hanging out here. So I'm always looking up when I'm walking in this section of the park. In the distance, you can see the famous Washington Arch, and there have been some controversial protest marks lately. I think much of them have been removed. We're coming up on another interesting tree. It's not on the Phenology Trail, but I just wanted to point it out. It's another kind of dogwood. It's known as the cornelian cherry, even though it's a dogwood. And it's one of the first trees to flower in the spring. And these beautiful small yellow flowers, and if I can zoom up, we've got fruit. So it's not on our Phenology Trail because it's not a listed plant as part of the National Phenology Network. If it was, we would definitely add it to the list just because of the early spring flowering, and the timing of that flowering has shifted over time. It was a couple weeks earlier this year than previous years. We've only been doing the phenology monitoring formally since last September, but informally we've been paying attention to the trees in the park for several years, so we've got a pretty keen sense of what's going on. Here's one of the bald cypresses in the park. And let's see if I can get close to the leaves. You might notice that they're alternate on the stem. And if you use the mnemonic ABC for alternate bald cypress, There's another tree that looks a bit similar, the dawn redwood, but its leaves are oppositely arranged. So that's one way to distinguish between the two trees. We refer to this as the crab apple grove. In the fall, when these crab apples are full of ripe fruits, gosh, all the birds come here. Robins, thrushes, catbirds, all the frugivores. You know, the canopy is alive with more than leaves in the fall and berries. So we'll keep walking along the northern edge, which is actually the coolest part of the park, because it's the northern edge, but also it's got a pretty good tree canopy. Here's another tree on our Phenology Trail, and this is the star magnolia. Now, I have been watching this tree for several years, and I never get to see the fruit ripen, but here's an unripe fruit for you. I actually didn't see this the last time I came up to make observations, so I'll have to make note of it when I get home. Looking up, almost hides the apartment building to the north of it. And you can see if I can zoom in properly, fuzzy bud right here. They'll be much bigger come next spring. We'll keep walking. This is the big lawn in the west corner of the park. Also really big trees, like this sycamore directly in front of me, and I'll get out of the glare. A really big American linden died and was taken down. It's sort of, you might see the stump on the line between the shadow, the shade, and the sun. That broke my heart a little bit. And directly ahead is one of two northern catalpa trees in the park. This tree has got a spooky silhouette in the fall once it's lost all its leaves. Right now it's got fruit, these long pods. And earlier in the year, gosh, the blossoming was stunning. It's got these white flowers with pollinator guides on them, so purple and yellow. It's really a beautiful tree. We'll keep walking. I'm passing by lots of different kinds of trees right now. Holly, oak, ginkgo, some dawn redwoods in here, some more cornelian cherries. There's a Norway maple. See how shady it is? City parks can be so wonderful. Now, in the park, there are these small groves, so 3 to 4 trees of deodar cedars. Someone once told me that they think the trees look like Dr. Seuss trees. What do you think? Okay, the sun's really bright right here, but I would be remiss if I didn't show you the famous English elm. It is over 300 years old, and I think it might be over 330, possibly close to 350. I'll check my notes. We've got 2 other trees on our Phenology Trail, red maple, silver maple. It's pretty dark in this corner of the park, so I'm going to turn and head towards the center where it's sunnier. Thanks to those who've stayed tuned. We're gonna see that big northern catalpa again, just ahead, behind this oak. When we first started doing our wildlife survey in the park, and much of the wildlife we see in the park are rats, squirrels, and birds. We used to see a lot of American redstarts in this catalpa tree. We didn't see as many this spring, though we were definitely out less this spring because of the shelter at home orders. Just behind these two people on the bench is another tree on our Phenology trail. It's a Coosa dogwood, and I can't get close to it. But right now it is covered with unripe fruit. And the ripe fruit is this sort of strawberry red, and they do look edible, but I don't think they in fact are, at least not for humans. And now we're coming back to the center of the park. Another famous architectural feature is the fountain, which is currently not on. It usually turns on around Memorial Day, but because of the pandemic and equity protests, it's been cordoned off. Just wanted to point out another tree that's not on our Phenology trail, even though I said that's what my focus would be. But this is a Japanese pagoda tree right ahead, and there used to be almost a double ring of these pagoda trees around the fountain. But when the park was redesigned in the mid-2000s, many trees of this species and size were cut down in order to accommodate the redesign. Currently, the ring of trees around the fountain are Japanese Selgova trees. So I'm walking towards what is probably my favorite tree, definitely my favorite North American tree. And why do I love it? I don't know, I kind of love it because of the straight bole. It's beautiful flowers, which can be hard to see because they tend to grow towards the top of the tree. And it's unusual leaf. And I'm not sure if any of these reasons have given you an ID, but I'll get closer. And it's the tulip tree. So check out that leaf. Unmistakable. No way to confuse it with anything else. There's a lot of spontaneous music in Washington Square Park. It's known as a creative center in the city. Music, dancing, it's a great space for demanding rights, for protests. It's also a really great space for natural things, natural beings. So there are two tulip trees in the park, and I close up on the leaf. Look at that straight bole or trunk. Flowering season is past. Now we've got fruit, and it's unripe at the moment. When it ripens, it'll be brown. And this is an aggregate of samaras. So now is obviously not the time to show you that, and I won't pick this fruit to take it apart. But one of the things we do for the Phenology Monitoring Project is we come out and we observe each tree. And some of our observations include counting individual fruit. For some trees require counting or estimating flowers, percent canopy. It's a really fun project, and I encourage you to look up the USA National Phenology Network and enroll in their local phenology leaders course. It was done online when I took it, and it's still being done online. And the instructor is wonderful. It's great support and a really good network. Before I get to the final species on the Phenology Trail, I wanted to direct your attention to another interesting tree that used to be top in my book. It is the sweet gum. It's got that star-shaped leaf. Right now, you can see last year's fruit, or I can see last year's fruit. You can also see this year's fruit. The male and female flowers on this tree are not very showy, and of course they're not on the tree right now. It's not one of these showy flowering trees. But the fruit does make up for it because they kind of hang like ribbons in the fall, winter, and being underfoot, it's very unpleasant. But I think they're rather beautiful. So here's the final species of the Phenology Trail. There's the second Quonset cherry. So you'll notice that it's a cherry, but leaves are quite different than the quantum cherry. And if it was in flower, you'd also see that the flowers of the Yoshino cherry are white, light pink, and much smaller and more delicate than sort of lousy blossoms of the Quonset cherry. And while the Quonset cherry is largely sterile, so not fruit producing, the Yoshino cherry does produce fruit. And this year, for the first time, there are long-run fruit on the tree. But for the first time this year, I foraged some of the fruit and ate it. And I have to say, it's not sweet. It's sort of like having a liqueur. It has that bitters flavor to it. And so I am soaking several of the fruit in some vodka in my refrigerator. And they've been in the refrigerator for a couple of weeks. And I tried the infusion yesterday in tonic water. And the tonic overpowered the infusion. So I think I might have to try it with soda water. So I'm almost at the end. I want to do all the waves. And this is a nice little grove of dawn redwoods. So I'll get close up one. Oh, correct. You can see, I hope you can see the opposite leaf attachment and a cone. I'm going to try and zoom in this for you folks. Sorry for the shaky camera work. Let's try it this way. Well, can you see the cone and the opposite leaf attachment? Yeah, dawn redwood. I wish social media had a sensory feature. Actually, I don't, because it's really important to get outside if you can. See there, this particular tree is laden with fruit. It's always nice to see the variety between or among individuals of the same species. Turning on to this giant red oak living its life in the run for small dogs here in Washington Square Park. It's been fenced off, not the entire root area, but it seems to be doing okay despite compaction and other issues. And almost at the end of the walk, the last I'll show you is what I refer to as Ginkgo alley. Ginkgo biloba. Some people don't like the pheno tree because her fruit is very stinky when smashed. Also, technically not a fruit, a seed with a fleshy covering. And I forged that fleshy covered seed last fall/winter and cooked it using a recipe I found on the internet. And they were delicious. So delicious, in fact, that I plan to do it again as often as I can. So here's Ginkgo alley. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's one behind me. And in the fall, wow, these trees produce a lot of fruit. It's really kind of amazing. You can eat your way through the city if you know which trees produce fruit and humans. You know, like you live in New York City and there's a publicly accessible map of all the street trees in the city. Wow, you could really spend your whole, deciduous trees, 3 seasons, harvesting different things. Right now I'm under a linden tree, and I harvested, including this year, the flowers. and you can steep them in hot water as if you're in a tocine. You can also dry those flowers and then infuse them later. The tea is lightly sweet. It has a calming quality. So the next thing I want to try are the haws of the hawthorn tree. So they're not ripe yet, and this definitely will be the last try, promise. See the unripe haws. And a lot of plants in the Rosaceae family. I am not a true botanist, folks. So true botanist correct me, but hawthorns I think are in the Rosaceae family. A lot of them have been suffering. Oh, here, I can't get it to focus from this rust. So I noticed it on service berries also. So I wouldn't pick that particular fruit, but I'm keeping my eye on ripening days so I can pick them and make them into a jam. Thanks so much for joining. I will definitely post this walk on my feed, and if you had any questions during the live session, you can ask them in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer them to the best of my ability. Happy Black Botanist Week this week and every week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.